Hello, everyone. Welcome to Southeastern 14. I'm Blayne Gilmer. Excited to have you in here as we cover daily SEC sports, guys. Every single day we have coverage of the Southeastern Conference, the greatest conference in sports, whether it is football, basketball, baseball, myself, Blake Lee, Chris Lovell. We've got all kinds of contributors here. Jake Crane has a weekly show with us called Jake's Takes. And then, of course, we got Brian Edwards, a multi-decade Vegas insider over there to give you betting tips. So each and every thing that you could possibly want right here on Southeastern 14, hit that thumbs up, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and we will make sure to have you covered for all your SEC news and analysis. So, guys, the Georgia Bulldogs back-to-back defending national champions, going for the three-peat, a feat that has not been accomplished since the 1930s with Minnesota. And it's a totally different ball game now with transfer portal, with NIL, with how elite these athletes are around. So Georgia is going for history. They just named Carson Beck their starting quarterback. Also had some unfortunate news where Branson Robinson tearing his patella tendon or rupturing his patella tendon there. So they're going to lose a key piece at running back throughout the year, but still have a lot of guys there in that backfield that they'll be able to turn to. This Georgia team is deep, and that's why they are ranked number one coming into the season. So let's, without further ado, let's go game by game and see how Georgia is going to fare. They get UT Martin at home. They're going to win that game and win it handily. I expect a great showing to start off the year by Carson Beck and those receivers, and kind of get some of that down the field rapport and get some of that explosiveness going on early. So 1-0 for Georgia. This Ball State game has been maybe the most talked about non-conference game for Georgia in a while. Why? It's not because Ball State's, going to be in, particularly good or anything. This is where Georgia was supposed to play Oklahoma. It would have been the first of a home-and-home situation, but the SEC is actually the one that asked Georgia and Oklahoma to not play this game because of Oklahoma entering the league and the balance of the schedule and things like that going forward. So Georgia had to cancel that game with Oklahoma at the request of the SEC. People want to talk about how easy Georgia's schedule is here. Well, this should be Georgia versus Oklahoma in Athens right here, but it's not. It's Ball State, and Georgia will beat Ball State and be 2-0. South Carolina is going to come to town, and Georgia's going to absolutely obliterate them. I mean, Georgia, there is no love lost between Kirby Smart and Shane Beamer. We saw that last year in Columbia. The result is going to be no different this year. Georgia will absolutely dominate up front on both sides of the ball in this matchup. Georgia has better weapons on the perimeter as a whole than South Carolina does, and Spencer Rattler, it will be rattled in Athens when he comes to Sanford Stadium between the hedges. Give me Georgia big. I don't care what the spread is. Georgia's going to cover it in this game. UAB, this may actually be a closer game than the South Carolina game. I think Trent Dilfer is going to coach this UAB team well. He's a breath of fresh air in college football with some of the stuff he's saying, but Georgia's going to win this game still rather easily, in my opinion. So 4-0 for Georgia to start the year off. 4 home games that Carson Beck gets to kind of ease into this thing, dip his toe into the water, and get going before they go to Auburn. This is not going to be an easy game. Okay, this is not going to be an easy game. First road environment for some of these guys that are stepping in to new roles. Jordan-Hare Stadium is wild. I'm telling you, it's one of the most difficult places to play, and I think Georgia will have some adversity early on in this one, but ultimately their talent and their depth ends up pulling through and wins this game on the road in the Deep South's oldest rivalry, really the last annual matchup of these two teams as we go to a different schedule and format in the SEC. So this rivalry may not be a year in, year out thing going forward. So enjoy it this year. Georgia's going to beat Kentucky, although I think Kentucky is going to be very, very good. I think Devin Leary and those wide receivers are dangerous with Liam Cohen coming back as the offensive coordinator for Kentucky. They added Ray Davis as the running back over there. They brought in some reinforcements on the offensive line, and we know that Mark Stoops can coach defense. There's not probably a team and a coach that Kirby Smart has more respect for than Mark Stoops and how he runs his program. Very similarly run to the Georgia program. They do things the right way. Brad White's a really good defensive coordinator. Kentucky always plays Georgia strong, and I think that they will do so again this year. Georgia kind of pulls away late in this one in the fourth quarter, but don't be surprised if it's like it was a couple years ago when Kentucky came to Athens, and around halftime, early third quarter, this was a ball game. Kentucky Wildcats are not going to be a joke this year. They're going to be very good in the SEC East, but I think Georgia wins. Georgia will go to Athens campus, Nashville, the Georgia branch in Nashville over there. Georgia absolutely takes over Vanderbilt Stadium. They'll do so again this year, and Georgia will beat the Commodores. Georgia will win handily in Jacksonville. Florida is down bad this year, as the kids say. I'm telling you, I just don't think the depth is there. I don't think the talent is there, and Kirby Smart just absolutely hates Florida. And we know from locker room speeches and stuff like that it doesn't matter what year it is, what the talent level of Florida is. Kirby Smart has pain that he has felt in this matchup from as a player, as a coach, things like that he has stored away and he taps into when it is the world's largest cocktail party, and he conveys that to his team. Georgia will be primed up and ready to play in this one and beat the Florida Gators. Georgia's going to beat Missouri, especially an interesting matchup when Missouri played them better than anybody last year. Georgia will remember that. Kirby Smart will have these guys ready to play as a talented and experienced Missouri team. 9 seniors that are starting on the defensive side of the ball. I think overall they have 10 returning starters on defense. This is a defense that gave Georgia fits last year. Wouldn't be surprised if it's close in the third quarter, but I think Georgia ends up winning this game probably by a couple touchdowns there at home. Ole Miss comes to town. This is a trap game. I don't think Ole Miss is going to be particularly good this year. They come to Athens the week before Georgia goes to Tennessee. Georgia needs to stay focused because Lane Kiffin, he can scheme up anything with the best of them. Of course, they have Quinshad Judkins there. Georgia's going to have to just come in and make whoever the Ole Miss quarterback is, whether it's Dart or Sanders, come in and say, hey, Quinshad Judkins is not going to beat us. We're going to shut down the running game. Can you beat us with your arm? I think that'll produce some turnovers, and Georgia will win this game pretty handily. Georgia's going to go to Knoxville, and I think, derail a lot of hopes and dreams for Tennessee once again, just like they did last year. I don't think that this Tennessee team is nearly as talented. I think people are highly, highly undervaluing just how good Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman were for this Tennessee team a year ago, and also how good Hendon Hooker was. I think people think Joe Milton's just going to go in there and be, some kind of just second coming of a mix between Joe Montana and Mike Vick or something. And I just don't see that happening. And I think Georgia really, really frustrates Tennessee and wins this one. Although that environment is going to be absolutely bonkers, particularly if Tennessee still has some hope, SEC East aspirations when that game comes around. And then Georgia Tech, Brent Key is going to have Georgia Tech being a better football team this year. We saw that they fought in Athens last year. This one is going to be on the flats down there at Georgia Tech. So, listen, Brent Key, I think, was a really good hire for Georgia Tech. He's the right guy down there for them. Is going to get that program, I think, back to respectability in the ACC, but Georgia's going to win this one handily, and we'll be 12-0 and headed back to the SEC championship with an opportunity to go 13-0 and an opportunity to go into the college football playoff and pursue history like nobody has done in the modern era. This is a Georgia team that is going to be as good defensively as Kirby Smart has had, with all the talent that they have over there, all the experience returning, All-Americans in the secondary, guy in Michael Williams, who I think can be an All-American by the time his year is done up front. Guys that have waited their turn, and Zion Logue, Nazir Stackhouse, all these kind of stuff up, along the defensive front. Of course, they've got Jamon Dumas-Johnson, Smile Munden, Xavier Sorry at linebacker. It's just a talented group, and I think Carson Beck's going to have a humongous year. Could look up and find himself being a Heisman finalist in New York City, just like Stetson Bennett was a year ago. So leave your comments, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, guys. If you want SEC football content each and every day, then this is your place to find it. Like I said, you can like, subscribe, leave your comments, turn on notifications when we go live, and make sure to join in the community here. We'd love to hear from you. So for everybody at Southeastern 14, I am Blayne Gilmer, and we will catch you guys next time to talk more SEC ball right here on Southeastern 14.